Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Honest Trader by CruiseFX. In today's video we're going to be reviewing every single trade that I took during the Phase 1 challenge account for the $10,000 by Funding Frontier. As many of you already know, we passed Phase 1 just the other day after taking 21 trades in total. Now let's jump straight into it. Trade number 1, we bagged ourselves $77 off of one lot just before New York opened. Now coming down to the 15-minute chart on gold, as you can see, we already had this nice big push down, creating this lovely clean range. And granted, I didn't get an entry here, but the fact is I didn't FOMO and I didn't panic. And at this point, I wanted to wait for a new support to form, as we did here. And I waited for a new resistance to form, as we did here. Then it was about waiting for a candle to close outside of our newly formed range. And as you can see, this candle right here was the first candle to close above this most recent resistance. We had clean candles to the left hand side, so that was perfect. However, we didn't really finish with a top wick, so I decided I wasn't going to enter that trade anyway. However, the next candle showed us a really nice bearish exhaustion wick. We had no top wick on that either, but as soon as this next candle opened, that was my entry. Stops went just below the current candle. As you can see, the move was absolutely perfect. As soon as we got to around 10 pips, I secured 90%, left runners to go. I think I got stopped out of break even at one point, but all in all, really nice trade. Trade number 2, we bagged ourselves $35 off a 0.5 lot. I can't find the trade on the chart, so we're going straight over to the next trade. Trade number 3, bagged ourselves $48 off a 0.5 lot, and it was another gold buy. On this trade, I marked out my most recent resistance and I marked out our most recent support at this level here. Now initially I was waiting for a candle to close outside this range, as you can see we did here, but it was very weak bullish and we'd already travelled quite far. This candle then closed back in the range, which kind of presented itself as a fake opportunity, but we failed to break the previous low. And as soon as we started driving very strong bullish and we broke that previous wick, that was my entry. And as soon as I secured around 10 pips, I secured 90%, let some runners run, and that was trade number 3. Trade number 4 was another gold buy, and we bagged ourselves $74 off a 0.3 lot, so we gained about 20-30 pips on this position. On to the 8th of August, which is the next day. I normally take about 1 or 2 trades a day. Again, we had this nice big bullish push. Wasn't a good idea to take a buy already, because we had traveled so far bullish already. So then it was about waiting for a new support to form, as we did here, and then I marked out our most recent resistance here. Again, it was really similar to trade number 1. I love this setup and I know it works, really works, has a high probability. That's not to say that it works every single time, but it has a high probability. As soon as we closed above the most recent resistance, as you can see here, again we finished with no top wick, or barely any top wick, and then we had the bearish exhaustion wick with no top wick. Proceeded to then break the previous high with the very next candle after having a really nice liquidity grab there. Again, yeah, I think we secured about 30 pips on this position. It was a really nice trade for the lot size that we put on there. Trade number 5, we bagged ourselves $18.30. It wasn't really worth going over this one. I secured some partials quite early on off a 0.6 lot, and then it came back to entry. Not really worth looking at that trade. Trade number 6, gold buys, $58.80 secured off a 0.8 lot. Really love this position on this trade. Again, you can see we had clean candles to left hand side. I marked out my most recent support. Again, I marked out my most recent resistance. As you can see, this candle closed really weak bearish at resistance. A really nice setup that I like. And then I took the buys as soon as we broke that previous wick at this point here. Stops below can go below current candle. Again, with the clean range to the left hand side, again, I think I secured around 10 pips on this position at partials, and then let runners run. On to trade number 7, we secured $55.80 on a 0.4 lot, and again, that was gold buys. I remember this trade really well. I put such a small lot size on because the volume was so big, I couldn't risk more than 2% of my account. This move was over 100 pips in total with the runners. Now, as you can see, we had this area of consolidation and I was waiting for a candle to close outside. Now I wanted to be extra cautious because we're reaching all-time new highs, and when we do that, there's no data to go off to the left hand side to see if there's any clean traffic and clean candles. Therefore you kind of have to use whole numbers on the charts of the price, say like 2,500, 2,505, 2,510, etc. Yeah, we've got the candle closure above. I didn't take the trade yet because we've closed with very little top wick, and then there was no entry after that because the candle, it did break the lows, but then failed to break the highs. and I didn't like the candle structure at this point, so again I didn't take any trades here. Then we had this candle which did grab liquidity to the downside, breaking the previous lows, and then my entry was at the break of the previous wick. Pretty big stops, hence the low lot size. But as soon as I got to about 100 pips, well, I got to 10 pips, 15 pips, closed out 90% positions, and then I let the rest run up to 100 pips. That's my biggest trade ever. Trade number 8 was a 0.5 lot, and it was a loss of $168. Now, this was a loss I was absolutely fine with. It's part of my strategy, part of my structure. There was one little thing that was bugging me a little bit, but it's not too bad. But I'll explain to you how we entered this trade and how we lost the trade. So initially we had this lovely drive down, creating these clean candles, and then at that point I waited for this new support to form, and I was looking at this area of resistance as well. I then waited for a candle to close outside, as we did here, followed by a weak bearish candle, and I do really like this setup. As soon as we broke that previous wick, I was looking to take out this clean range to the left hand side. I really do like this setup. I had stops below the previous candle, and as you can see, we wicked up a tiny bit and completely rejected, taking me out of my stops for the minus $168. So it was pretty big stops, but that's the structure of the candles, and that's what I do with my strategy. The only thing I didn't like on this trade was the fact that we had this no top wick on this candle, and as soon as you sometimes when you see them getting taken out, it didn't get quite taken out anyway, but when you get them taken out, I do often see rejections. So yeah, that was the next trade, and that was a loss. On to trade number 9, and it was another loss of $115.50 on a 0.5 lot. Again, gold buys. Again, I really liked the setup, pushing at all-time new highs on gold again. We had this most recent resistance marked out, and I marked out my most recent support. I remember this trade because again, it was on live stream, and the thing is with this trade, most of the people in my chat actually got a win off this trade, and the reason I lost is because I went super aggressive with my stops. So again, we closed outside of our most recent resistance. I didn't take the buys yet because we had no bottom wick on the candle that did close outside, so I'm always cautious we may come and collect that. So I waited, and we waited, and it paid off because we got a small bearish candle, and then I liked the buys at the break of the previous wick. Went really aggressive with my stops, as you can see. We went about 8 pips in profit, a couple away from securing some partials and stops at break even, but that is how it is. 2 mistakes I made here. Most of the people won in my community because they put stops below the previous half an hour candle, whereas I went really aggressive with current. If I given myself a bit more room to breathe on this trade, it would have been fine. Another thing that I shouldn't have done, I should have cancelled the order because the candle broke the previous wick at about 12:58. I think it was only a couple of minutes from the candle close of the hourly. So we drew a pullback. It did happen. I got taken out and then it played out. But yeah, that is what it is. So it's 2 losses in a row at that point. But again, I kept my cool. I know that I stick to my strategy, and we go again on the next day. Trade number 10, we came back with a bang, and we got $67.20 off a 0.8 lot. So onto the chart. At this point, we had the nice drive down, as you can see, nice bearish drive down. I waited for the new support, so I marked that out there, and our most recent resistance at this point here on this candle here, this resistance forming this new range. Yes, to the left hand side there is a bit of a smaller range. We still had at this point about 20 pip range, and with the wick fill it's about 40 pips, and then the clean candles, so I didn't mind this trade at all. Had the candle closure above, followed by this candle that broke the previous high very late on, so I didn't take the trade yet. I did like it because it had the nice liquidity grab off the previous low, followed by the no top wick bearish candle, and this was my sign to gear up for some buys after closing above. I then took the buys at the break of the previous wick, the bearish candle, went into some nice profits, didn't secure yet, wait for the candle to close. We still closed bullish, so there's no reason for me to close out yet, and we respected the bullish structure. As you can see, We carried on pushing bullish. We've got to around this wick fill at that resistance. At that point, I closed some partials, about 90%, let the runners run, and that was trade number 10 secured. Trade number 11, we bagged ourselves $136 off a 0.8 lot. Again, gold buys. Really like this trade. It was a really textbook trade. We came to the charts. This was at 6:53 in the morning that I entered this trade. So pre-London, I set my alarm for 6 a.m. every morning, got up, and I saw we had this most recent resistance formed and this most recent support formed. Just as I was opening my eyes, I thought that we did get a candle closing above our most recent resistance. Based off the fact we'd already kind of moved from the bottom to the top of the range, I don't really like taking them trades yet. I'll wait for a bearish candle first, which we did get really nicely, getting a nice liquidity grab back into that range, taking out the previous lows. All them people that are already in buys after breaking that wick, they are out. So I had in my head already to take the buys at the break of the previous wick, stops below the current candle. Lovely clean range to the left hand side. I believe I secured about 20 pips on this trade with the runners. So yeah, another really nice trade. On to trade number 12, where we bagged ourselves $34.80 off a 0.5 lot. Again, gold buys. This trade, again, really nice and textbook. Came to the charts in the mornings on the London session. There we marked out our most recent support, marked out our most recent resistance. This candle closed above our most recent resistance. I really liked the wick down that we had on this candle. I know we did go from the bottom to the top of the range, but the fact that we had this really nice closure outside, we had a nice wick down, lovely clean range to the left hand side. Took the buys at the break of the previous wick, and as you can see, we had a really nice bull run. Secured about 90% of positions at around 10 pips, and then left the runners, got stopped out at break even, I believe. On to trade 14 and 15. Trade 14, we lost $48 exactly, and then trade 15 was a re-entry and we won $48.30. Again, this was on gold sells. On to the next day. As you can see, this is the trade here. So we lost the first entry and then re-entered on the second entry. I came to the charts and we had this most recent resistance and this most recent support. Now this candle was the first candle to close outside of that range, followed by this candle here where I believe still waited. Trying to remember it now. I think 10:46. So it looks like I actually entered on the very next candle. I must have had stops below the current high, and then we went into a bit profit and then came all the way back and took me out of my stops. So that was the loss, and then we came all the way back down, re-broke the previous low, and I think that's where I entered again. I gained my 10 pips and I got out the market. As you can see, it wasn't the cleanest of trades in the end, but I trusted my analysis, trusted my positions, took the re-entry and got out and on to the next day. Trade number 16, we bagged ourselves $41.30 for 0.8 lot off some gold buys. Now this trade was taken on exactly London open candle, where we had this nice clean range pushed to the downside in Asia and pre-London. We had formed this new resistance, we'd formed this new support, and it was an impulse buy. Normally I wouldn't take this impulse buy off this 15 minutes. Again, I'm showing you everything on the 15 minute because there's my entry points, but I'm always looking at other time frames to see if it all adds up with all the confluences. I'm not just looking at the 15 minute, it takes much more detail, but because we had this clean range to the left hand side, I took the impulse buy at the break of the previous wick with London open volume. Because we had the volume, I trusted this. Done current stops with the clean range to the left hand side, targeting this previous resistance. The half an hour candle actually broke the lows, the previous lows, and as we started to come back up, which is the second 15 minute of the candle, then I entered the trade with the London open. We've got a really nice wick up. Obviously we did reject, but we got 17 pips there. I secured again at around 10 pips closed full, and then taken out on the runners and then break even. Again, really nice trade. This trade we bagged ourselves just $8.80. I believe we must have got taken out near break even at this point. It was a 0.4 lot gold sell. Now I'm coming to the charts and looking at the charts at 116. Oh yes, I remember this trade now. Really annoyed at myself actually. I remember it very, very nicely. So I came to the charts. It's a New York session. We had this most recent resistance formed here, and we had this most recent support formed here. As you can see, we had this really nice bullish exhaustion wick, really finished really nice weak bullish at support. So I was looking for sales at the break of that previous wick. Now I entered the sales at the break of the previous wick. I'm pretty sure I got a bit of a late entry. I just wanted to clear this wick to the left, so I entered about here. Stops below current candle. And as you can see, we had the wick down. I went into some profits and I put my stops just above break even, I believe. Then it got taken out of break even, got the random $8. And then if I just held my position, bang, you can look, we went over like 100 pips, or 160 pips after that. So yeah, that was a pretty tough one to take. Again, didn't lose anything, so not the end of the world, but yeah, that was a pretty tough one to take, but it's what it is. Trade number 17, we bagged ourselves $47.40 off a 0.7 lot, and this was gold sells. So this was taken in the London session. As you can see, we had this nice push down. There wasn't really any entries for me yet. Had a nice bearish push. Then I wanted these sells here, but this candle broke the lows very, very late on in the candle, so I left it. I was still anticipating sells, considering how bearish it was. So I did mark out my most recent resistance here. This was the most recent support, where I initially wanted the sells, but missed that entry because of the late break. It would have played out nicely anyway, but we finished with no bottom wick, so I didn't want to take the sells there. And then this candle here finished with very little no wick as well. We started to run out of range, but we did have a little bit more, nice 15 pips, and then I was anticipating the wick fill, which was 50 pips there. So my sell position was actually after waiting for this weak bullish candle to form. The reason I liked it and the reason I wanted to take it was because we broke the previous high first, as you can see, and then as we re-broke the lows, that was my entry. Stops above the current candle. Again, secured my 10 pips and left runners and secured the $50 or whatever it was, can't remember now, and got out of the market, and then went on to the next day. On to trade number 18, and we bagged ourselves $82.80 off a one lot, and this was gold buys. This trade was taken during the London session. As you can see, oh, get rid of that. I marked out my most recent support here, and then I marked out our most recent resistance at this level here. Looking left, we're coming up to this resistance area here, and after that we had a really nice clean candle, so I was really looking to anticipate buys at this point. The reason I like this trade, because we were at our most recent resistance, and this bullish candle took out the lows of the weak bearish candle. We did break above already, and then closed back down, but looking at the half an hour as well, I was trusting the bullish analysis, and as soon as we broke that previous high on the weak bullish candle, that was my entry. I believe I did have stops below previous candle, but I was trusting the bullish momentum. Again, I gained the 10 pips or so, closed 90%, and then left runners to run for a little bit more, but then I think I got taken back out at entry at some point, secured the $82, and then went on to the next day. Obviously you can see we did push a lot after that, but you can't think what if I held, what if I stopped out, because that would just mess with your psychology. So stick to a strategy, and be happy with what you get. If you can take any slice out of the market, that's profit. You've beaten the market that day. That is how I look at it. On to trade 19, we bagged ourselves $41.50 cents off a 0.5 lot for gold buys. This trade was taken just after London Open. Marked out our most recent support. We marked out our most recent resistance at this level here. Waited for a candle to close outside of this range, as you can see we did here. We're anticipating to take out the previous no top wick over here. We had the clean candles after the closure, and I often see these get taken out, so that was my target. I took the buys at the break of the previous wick. Stops below this current candle, I believe. Could have been previous. No, not 50. It would have been current. Literally just trying to go for this no top wick here. As you can see, it was 16 pips in total. I think I secured 9 or 10 pips at partials. Tried to let runners run, but obviously we got taken out with break even. By the way, every time I secure some partials, I'm always putting break even every single time, just for clarification. On to trade number 20, and we bagged ourselves $72.05 off a 0.65 lot. So it was a really nice trade off gold buys. This trade was taken just coming to the back end of the London volume session, coming into pre-New York at this time. This was a fake out trade. I haven't taken a fake out trade in so long, but this was really too good to pass on. So initially I marked out our most, I marked out our most recent resistance at this point here, and the latest support was at this point here. As you can see, we had this candle drive down, and then we closed below our most recent support, giving an indication to the market that we're going to go bearish. However, the next candle never broke the previous lows. I didn't like the trade anyway because we had a no top wick there. But then we proceeded to close back in the range, presenting us with a lovely fake out. Looking at the higher time frames, it was really, really nice trade. So as soon as we closed back in the range, I was gearing up for buys. I entered the buys at the break of the previous wick. We did have a very small little bottom wick there. I normally like to wait for a steeper bottom wick to come first, but the fact it was a fake out, when it's a fake out, I do like to enter on these trades. I really trusted my analysis with the clean range to the left hand side here. Entered the buy. I believe I must have secured about, let's have a look, 10, 11, 12 pips, and then just closed out, thinking I'd passed at this point, but not quite. Which leaves us with the 0.25% to get. If I just held 2 more pips in that last trade, it would have been fine, but hey ho. Stuck to the plan, stuck to the strategy. At this point, I didn't need to risk a load of my account at this point. I just wanted to get the 10 pips again, so I only had to risk a 0.25 lot. We bagged ourselves $27 again on gold buys. So the final trade of the phase 1 challenge account for $10,000. I just needed them 10 pips on a 0.25 lot. I marked out our most recent resistance. I marked out our most recent support at this level here. Bit tricky to explain this one, but at the point we did take this big drive down. So at this point of interest, I was waiting for a new mini range to form at this point, and we formed this new support here, and then I was waiting for a smaller resistance to form, and we can use that clean traffic to left as that. Now this current candle here, it started to break the previous lows, and it looks like a very strong bearish candle at that point. So I already started moving this resistance down to here, anticipating that we are going to create a resistance here with the new range. However, we broke the previous lows, and anticipating with the big bullish volume at this moment in time, as soon as we started to break that previous high again, and I anticipated this was like the 4-hour flip coming back up, and this no top wick here, I was anticipating getting taken out. This is why I was really confident in this trade. We took out the lows, and as soon grabbing the liquidity, as soon as we then re-broke the previous high, I took the entry. Targets were up here for final targets, but I just needed the 10 pips. As soon as we got 10 pips, closed out, and that was it. So that's it, guys. That's the end of the video. As you can see, we had the full trade history breakdown here. The honest trader, the most transparent trader you'll see out there. If you do want to trade like me, then don't hesitate to ask. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below how well you thought I did on this video. We got an 80% win rate in the end. On to phase 2, so stay tuned.